everyone, and welcome to Bookish Babbles, the podcast where we reread our favorite books and chat about them. I'm your host, Alyson, and without further ado, let's get started. Welcome to episode 13 of Bookish Babbles. Today we are talking about chapters 4 to 6 of The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. So before we get started, there are two things that I want to talk about real quick. First of all is we have a release date for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie. Woo! So as of right now, the official release date is November 17th, 2023. If anyone's looking for me on that day, I will be at the movie theaters, crying, wearing a rainbow dress. It's still waiting on the cast. I need to know who Lucy Gray is. And another thing that is not Hunger Games related. So one of my favorite book podcasts, it's called Books Unbound, hosted by the wonderful Ariel and Raylene. By the way, if you love book podcasts and you aren't listening to Books Unbound, go do it after this episode, of course. So anyway, so this month they are doing what they call Mashed Potato May, which sounds weird out of context, but they coined the idea of a mashed potato book in one of their first episodes, which just basically means that, you know, it means a book that you keep meaning to read, are very excited to read, but keep putting off because you're waiting for the quote-unquote perfect time or whatever. So Mashed Potato May is just dedicated to reading the books that you keep putting off. So if you're anything like me and you have books that you really want to read but keep putting it off because reasons, I encourage you to join me this month in reading the books that we keep putting off. If you have a book or a few that you've been waiting for some kind of sign to read, this is your sign right here, right now. Go read that book. I also just wanted to share real quick the mashed potato books that I plan on reading in May now, because I am a mood reader. I am terrible at sticking to TBRs, but my main goal is to read at least 3 mashed potato books this month. Even if my mood changes and I don't read these 3, I still have plenty of mashed potato books to choose from. So, anyway, these are the 3 mashed potato books that I'm intending to read in May. So the first one being The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. And I also have still yet to read anything by Kristen Hanna. I've had this book since 2016. Everyone I talk to loves her books, especially this one. One of my former coworkers loves this book. This is like her all-time favorite, and she's shocked and offended that I have not read this book or anything by Kristen Hanna. But don't worry, that is changing this month. So the other one is Lore Olympus, Volume 1. So I figured I should fit in at least one graphic novel in here. You know, have something that I know I can read really quickly, give me a nice, quick sense of accomplishment. And I love Greek mythology, so it's weird that I haven't read this one yet. And plus, Volume 2 is coming out this summer, so it's a really good time to read it. And the third one is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. So this is just another short book that I know I can read fairly quickly. And I'm putting it on here because so where it is in my room is like on a shelf that's high up, so I'm never eye level with it, and therefore, because it's usually out of sight, I kind of forget it's there. So I have it written down here so that I remember that I have it and I need to read it. And just a couple quick honorable mentions, because they're not like books that I've had for so long that they feel like mashed potato reads, but they are recent books that I've acquired that I really do want to read very soon. The first one being Pachinko, which my friend Gabby has recommended, and I need to read. And the other one is Saba Tahir's new book. What's it called? All My Rage. Weird that I haven't read it yet because I love Saba Tahir's books. I love An Ember in the Ashes. So, yep, putting it on here to read this month, hopefully. So, anyway, enough with my supposed TBR. Let's talk about the Hunger Games. So, last week, we met Katniss and Gale while they're hunting in the woods. Katniss volunteers to take her sister's place in the reaping. Very important. We're introduced to Peeta. Also very important. And Haymitch gives us a wonderful, hilarious display that's not in the movie. This week, Katniss and Peeta arrive in the capital. They get to wear very fiery costumes, pun intended. And a dark piece of Katniss's past comes back to haunt her. And with all that being said, let's dive into Chapter 4. So this chapter opens with Katniss and Peeta struggling to get Haymitch back into his room because, as we remember, the last chapter ended with him being so drunk that he slipped and fell in his own vomit. So they get into the bathtub and Peeta offers to take it from there. And it's a really small moment, but I think I like it for two reasons. One, it shows Peeta's kindness, something that I always appreciate. And this is a truly selfless act because, as Katniss points out, Haymitch is very unlikely to remember Peeta doing this for him. So Peeta has nothing to gain from this no way to win favor with Haymitch. Katniss herself even recognizes that Peeta is being genuinely kind, which makes her really uncomfortable. On page 49, it says, in the narration, "A kind Peeta Malark is far more dangerous to me than an unkind one. Kind people have a way of working their way inside me and rooting there, and I can't let Peeta do this, not where we're going." And another reason I like this scene is because when Peeta tells Katniss that he can take care of it from there, she doesn't do the typical quote-unquote nice protagonist thing where she says, "Oh, are you sure? I can stay and help." She's just like, "Okay, cool." I mean, she does offer to get one of the attendants to deal with Haymitch as a petty form of revenge, but still doesn't offer to stay and help herself. It's a very small thing, but it's really relatable because I would do the exact same thing in her position. Like, it's good when protagonists don't always act like, perfect role models. So Katniss goes back to her room and throws the cookies that Mr. Malark gave her because she's determined not to have anything to do with Peeta and his family ever again. that won't work out. She sees the package of cookies burst open on the ground on a patch of dandelions, reminding her that, no, you can't push away or forget Peeta's kindness and how he helped you all those years ago. Silly. We then get another flashback. We're brought back to the scene in the school yard when 11-year-old Katniss failed to muster up the courage to thank Peeta for the burnt bread. She sees a dandelion and remembers that not all hope is lost. She goes home to get a bucket and fills it with dandelions from the meadow. And speaking of meadows, for some reason I decided to listen to the Midnight Sun audiobook. And the meadow scene from Edward's point of view is the most mind-numbing thing I've ever had the displeasure of listening to. Like overall, the book was okay. There were scenes like when the evil vampires show up where I was interested, and Edward at the beginning in biology plotting out Bella's murder was entertaining. But the meadow scene was brutal and over an hour long listening to it. Like, I shit you not, I was typing my notes for last week's episode while listening to that scene, and I promised you, I missed nothing important. Stephanie Meyer also somehow managed to write the most boring car race scene toward the end when they're trying to, get to Bella before James kills her. And, I enjoyed the book because I got more content with the Cullen family and Edward, and like I said, Edward plotting the murder of his classmates during Bella's first day in biology was kind of funny. Plus, because of Ed's powers, we can directly hear thoughts from the other characters, which is cool. And I like the bit about Eddie not feeling guilty about reading Emmett's mind because Emmett never thinks anything he wouldn't say out loud. And I like getting more scenes of Alice because she's my favorite Cullen. But oh my god, Edward is so melodramatic. Like, Bella's head is more bearable to be in. And Eddie boy, you're over 100 and somehow she's the more mature one. Also, if I was going to get a book from another character's POV, why couldn't it be Alice? She and her problematic yeehaw husband have a more compelling love story than the two main characters were subjected to. And before anyone asks, yes, I have been and am still kind of guilty of having a slight crush on Jasper. You can go ahead and cancel me for that. Anyway, we're here to talk about the Hunger Games, not Twilight. So sorry for making you listen to that tangent. But yeah, so if you want to read Midnight Sun, skip the meadow scene. I promise you, you'll be better off. Just go straight to the baseball scene. Okay, so 11-year-old Katniss harvested dandelions and used them to make a dandelion salad. Her mom has a book that lists all kinds of plants for medical uses. Her father had added entries of plants that they could eat, so she used that to gather food from the woods, shoots some rabbit for me, and life starts to get better. Katniss grows more comfortable trading at the Hob. Katniss finds the plant Katniss and remembers what her father used to tell her: as long as you can find yourself, you'll never starve, which is really cute. But I also remember the other name for the plant, which is swamp potato. Like, imagine your little sister is named after a pretty flower, and then you find out you were named after swamp potato. I'd be mad about that if I were a little kid. Anyway, their mother gets out of the depressive fog at some point, and Prim's happy to have her back, but Katniss doesn't trust her, and their relationship has never recovered, which is really sad, but totally justified for Katniss to feel that way. Also, side note, it's noted that the thing that makes them certain their mother has come back to them is when she starts singing. And I've mentioned this before in previous ballad episodes, but there is like an underrated theme throughout the series that I don't see get brought up a ton. And it's about how music heals and like makes characters feel more alive again. Case in point here, Mrs. Everdeen singing again symbolizes her coming back to life and getting out of that deep depressive fog, and she starts to feel like herself again. Plus, music would obviously remind her of her late husband, so I guess it could also show us that she's coming out of the worst of her grief over his loss. Anyway, back to the present. Katniss now feels guilty that she and her mother never fully repaired their relationship, since she now might never get a chance to. And she also worries that her mother has already slipped back into a depressive state, leaving Prim completely on her own. But at least she has Buttercup, and Katniss is glad that she didn't drown the cat. So then she goes to bed. So the next morning she's woken up by Effie knocking on the door saying, "Up, up, up, it's going to be a big, big, big day." And it's a shame that Effie never says that in the movies anywhere, because it's probably the line she says the most frequently in the book, apart from the one that she's most known for, like, "Happy Hunger Games," that one. Katniss briefly wonders what it must be like to live in Effie's head, and honestly, same. Also, how does she manage to have so much energy, like, all the time? Like, if you're over the age of 10 and consistently energetic and upbeat, especially first thing in the morning, I don't trust you. Anyway, Katniss gets dressed and goes to the dining car before breakfast. Effie gives her a cup of black coffee, which, again, makes me not trust you, Effie. At least put in some cream and sugar for her. No wonder when Katniss tries it, she doesn't care for it. So she sits down, gets served a lot of food, notes that the basket of rolls in front of her could keep her family going for a week. And then she tries hot chocolate for the first time. And Katniss eats until her stomach feels like it'll burst open. Haymitch is currently nursing a hangover. And it's at this moment that Katniss really detests Haymitch, because so far he's just been acting like a drunken mess, and she partially blames him for the fact that tributes from their district almost never win. Like, because as their mentor, Haymitch is the one who would deal with his tribute sponsors, and if he's constantly a drunken mess, rich sponsors likely won't want to talk or deal with him. Which is a very fair and understandable point of view for Katniss to have at this point in time. Her main goal is surviving the game so she can get home, and if Haymitch can't do his job as mentor, then that gets in the way of her goal. But as the series progresses, she and us begin to understand Haymitch a bit more, and now he's one of my favorite characters in the series. I definitely did not appreciate him as much when I was younger. But yeah, for now, it makes sense for Katniss to feel this way about him. So Katniss tries to initiate a conversation with Haymitch by saying, "So, you're supposed to give us advice?" And Haymitch replies with the best answer, "Here's some advice. Stay alive!" Which does sound harsh in the moment, especially for Katniss and Peeta, but really, it is the most important piece of advice, even if it is obvious. Also, it's not like he's coaching them in a soccer game where there are rules and boundaries in place. There are no rules in the Hunger Games, except, do what it takes to stay alive. But Peeta and Katniss naturally don't react to the answer very well. So I'm going to start reading toward the bottom of page 56. So it's right after Haymitch gives that answer, stay alive. That's very funny, says PETA. Suddenly he lashes out at the glass in Haymitch's hand. It shatters on the floor, sending the blood-red liquid running toward the back of the train. Only not to us. Haymitch considers this a moment, then punches PETA in the jaw, knocking him from his chair. When he turns back to reach for the spirits, I drive my knife into the table between his hands and the bottle, barely missing his fingers. I brace myself to deflect his hit, but it doesn't come. Instead, he sits back and squints at us. "Well, what's this?" said Haymitch. "Did I actually get a pair of fighters this year?" PETA rises from the floor and scoops up a handful of ice from under the fruit tureen. He starts to raise it to the red mark on his jaw. "No," says Haymitch, stopping him. "Let the bruise show. The audience will think you've mixed it up with another tribute before you've even made it into the arena." "That's against the rules," says PETA. "Only if they catch you. That bruise will say you fought. You weren't caught. Even better," says Haymitch. He turns to me. "Can you hit anything with that knife besides a table?" So, 2 important things that I get from this moment. One, they've caught Haymitch's attention. Now instead of having 2 kids he's certain will die within the first 5 minutes of the games, so, why bother risk getting attached? He now potentially has 2 tributes who could stand a fighting chance. And it shows that PETA is assertive and can stand up to people. I bring this up because I feel like people who have only seen the movies see PETA as just, a nice guy who is a pushover. And that's kind of fair. The movie is missing moments like this where you do see PETA act more assertive. Because in the movie, PETA tried to take Haymitch's glass away, which results in Haymitch putting his gross foot on PETA's chest, and PETA doesn't do anything about that again. So anyway, Katniss throws the knife and accidentally manages to lodge it in the seam between 2 panels, but of course acts like she did it on purpose. Haymitch takes a good look at them and realizes that they're not hopeless tributes. Yay! So they make a deal. Katniss and PETA don't interfere with his drinking, and he'll stay sober enough to help them. But, they have to do exactly what Haymitch says. Katniss immediately tries to start asking questions about what to do in the arena, but Haymitch stops her. First things first, they gotta meet their stylist, put on a show. Because, this isn't like the old days where they used to just dump tributes into the arena as soon as they got to the Capitol, or put them in a zoo and starve them. No. First they get to participate in a parade. How lovely. So, Haymitch tells them not to resist, no matter what the stylists do to them. And as the conversation ends, Pete and Katniss look out the window and get their first view of the Capitol, the grandest place they've ever seen. Katniss notes that the footage they've seen on TV of the place doesn't do it justice. When the train pulls into the station, they see crowds of people excited to see a train that has some tributes inside. Katniss immediately pulls away from the window, sickened by their excitement. PETA has a different response. He waves and smiles at the crowd, trying to make a good first impression on potentially rich sponsors. And Katniss doesn't like that. And rather than explain why, I'll just read you the last 2 paragraphs of the chapter. "I have misjudged him. I think of his actions since the reaping began. The friendly squeeze of my hand, his father showing up with the cookies and promising to feed Prim. Did PETA put him up to that? His tears at the station, volunteering to wash Haymitch but then challenging him this morning when apparently the nice guy approach had failed. And now the waving at the window, already trying to win the crowd. All of the pieces are still fitting together, but I sense he has a plan forming. He hasn't accepted his death. He is already fighting hard to stay alive. Which also means that kind PETA Malark, the boy who gave me the bread, is fighting hard to kill me." And with that being said, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Chapter 5. Hey guys, it's Alyson from A Different Point in Time, and I'm here to bring you another random recommendation. So, first one I want to recommend is a book I read either late last year or earlier this year, I can't quite remember, but the point is I read it pretty recently, and I really loved it. It's called A Little Hope by Ethan Hoella, and It has one of the prettiest covers I've ever seen, so I will post it on the Instagram for you guys to see. So I'll read the description for you guys. A luminous, life-affirming novel set in an idyllic Connecticut town over the course of a year. A Little Hope follows the intertwining lives of a dozen neighbors as they confront everyday desires and fears, a lost love, a stalled career, an illness, and a betrayal. Freddie and Greg Tyler seem to have it all: a comfortable home at the edge of the woods, a beautiful young daughter, a bond that feels unbreakable. But when Greg is diagnosed with a rare and aggressive form of cancer, the sense of certainty they once knew evaporates. Greg's boss, Alex Lionel, grapples with a secret of his own. Meanwhile, Darcy Crowley is still coming to terms with the loss of her husband as she worries about her struggling adult son, Luke. Ginger Lord returns home longing for a past relationship, and Ahmed Gaman wonders if he'll ever find true love. A deeply resonant debut that immerses the reader in a community of friends, family, and neighbors. A Little Hope celebrates the importance of small moments of connection. So I actually forgot this book was a debut until I read the summary just now, so that should tell you how good it is. But yeah, and it's not that long either. It's like only... It's not even 300 pages. It's like 280 pages or something. So, but a lot does happen in this book, and you feel the emotions of all these different characters, and it's just done so well. And I really hope Ethan writes more books because he's very talented. So, again, A Little Hope by Ethan Hoella, highly recommended. And with that being said, back to the episode. Alright, we're back. So this chapter opens with Katniss and her prep team. Katniss has been at the Remake Center for over 3 hours now, and her stylist won't see her until the prep team is done with her. They fixed her nails, scrubbed her down, and they are waxing a lot of hair off her body. And Katniss naturally hates this, but she keeps to her word with Haymitch and doesn't complain. So in this scene, we're introduced to Katniss's prep team. Vania, who is a woman with aqua hair and gold tattoos above her eyebrows. Flavius, a guy with orange hair and purple lipstick. And Octavia, a woman whose entire body has been dyed a shade of pea green. Katniss says she doesn't feel embarrassed when she's standing stark naked while the prep team plucks off any lingering hair off her body. Her reason being they look so unlike normal people. And when they're finally done, Flavius gives Katniss, which is genuinely a compliment coming from him, even though it sounds like a backhanded one. He says, "Excellent! You almost look like a human being now!" Oh boy. So Katniss forces a smile and tells them, "Thank you, we don't have much cause to look nice in District 12. And this completely wins over the prep team, and they assure her that Cinna will make her look amazing. And as they leave the room, Katniss admits that it's hard to hate her prep team since they're total idiots and in their strange way just sincerely trying to help her. And another reason Katniss is a better person than Gale, had he been in her position at this moment, he would hate the prep team just on principle that they live in the capital. And I do love Katniss's relationship with her prep team as the series goes on. They're not really featured in the movies, which is a shame, but I get it, you only have so much time and can only include so many characters. But the prep team does do something really important. They help humanize ordinary capital citizens. They're not cartoon villains, even if they're dressed like them. They're genuinely nice people who are deeply brainwashed. And so, now Cinna walks in, and Katniss is immediately taken aback by how normal he looks. The only alteration he's made to his appearance is his signature gold eyeliner. His hair is his natural color, and he's just wearing a simple black shirt and pants. And she also notes that his voice doesn't quite match the typical capital accent. And I've heard some theories that Cinna is originally from District 1, which at first I wasn't sure when I first heard this theory, but that was before I read Ballad. Because, if a rich guy from District 2 who owns a munitions business can buy capital citizenship for him and his family, then why not a talented fashion designer from District 1? Maybe someone from the capital who frequents District 1 likes in his work and sponsored him so he could get capital citizenship. I don't know, could happen. Anyway, so Cinna examines Katniss. The one part of her body that he instructed the prep team not to touch was her hair, which I forgot to mention. Her hair is still done in the same braid her mom did right before the reaping. And because the braid's so good that it stayed that way all this time, even after a night's sleep. Katniss then asked Cinna if he's new, since she didn't recognize him from previous games, since stylists are often featured. And yes, it is Cinna's first year. And we also learned that most new stylists get assigned District 12 since, it's the least desirable district, but Cinna had asked for District 12 specifically, and he doesn't explain further. They then go into another room to talk more. Cinna presses a button on the table and their lunch appears, which is mind-blowing to me. I can only imagine how crazy that would look to Katniss. Their lunch is chicken with oranges, creamy sauce, veggie rolls, and a pudding for dessert. Then, if Katniss tried to make something like that back home, it would take her days to gather all the things she would need to make it, and it would still be a poor substitution for the meal that's right in front of her. And Cinna just got it within seconds with a press of a button. And Katniss wonders what it's like to live in a world where it's easy to get food, and more importantly, she wonders, what she would do with all the time she spends hunting, which is so sad because Katniss is a 16-year-old girl. She should have time to relax, enjoy her free time. But no, she has to be in go, go, go survival mode. And Cinna, being the amazing, empathetic, and perspective and compassionate person that he is, sees Katniss's reaction to the food and tells her how despicable we must seem to you. And I think this is the moment when Katniss started to trust Cinna. Not only was he on point with guessing her thoughts, he shows that he understands the horror of the situation that she's in. Once again, another reason for the theory that he's from District 1, because even though District 1 is obviously treated better than most, they still wouldn't have it as good as the capital. So someone from 1 can better grasp how the tributes are feeling. Anyway, so then Cinna starts to talk about the opening ceremony, the parade and all that the tributes have to participate in. Each tribute has to wear a costume that represents their district in some way, that their stylist designed, of course. And for example, District 11 provides agriculture, so the stylist assigned to that district might dress them up as farmers. District 12 provides coal, so basically every year the tributes have been dressed in as coal miners, and the outfits rarely ever look good. Except for that one year when the tributes were stark naked and covered in black powder to represent coal dust. So basically, the tributes from 12 never win favor with the audience during the opening ceremony. But Cinna has a different idea. Cut to a few hours later, Katniss is not naked like she was afraid she'd be. Instead, she's wearing a simple black unitard covering her from ankle to neck, and she's wearing leather boots. A cape made of streams of orange, yellow, and red, and a matching headpiece. Cinna's plan is to light the capes on fire just before they go out. He assures them that the flames aren't real, but Katniss is still understandably worried that she'll be barbecued. Cinna also made sure that Katniss's face is mostly clear of makeup because he wants to make sure that when she's in the arena, the audience will recognize her as, Katniss Everdeen, the girl who was on fire. After he says that, Katniss has this line which made me laugh. It crosses my mind that Cinna's calm and normal demeanor masks a complete madman. She may have a point. Later in Catching Fire, Cinna says something about channeling his emotions into his work. I guess he channels his insanity there also. Anyway, Peeta then shows up with his stylist, Portia, and her team. He's wearing an outfit identical to Katniss's. Everyone's excited, though Cinna is notably wary as he accepts congratulations. They all go down to the bottom level of the remake center, and the tributes get into their chariots. The horses are so well trained that no one has to guide them. I need someone like that to train my dog. I love Ray, but she's a crazy dog who is clearly in her teenage rebellious phase, except when food is involved. Then she listens. Sometimes. Also, Katniss and Peeta have a brief funny exchange where she says, what do you think, I whisper to Peeta, about the fire? I'll rip off your cape if you rip off mine, he says through gritted teeth. Deal, I say. Maybe if we can get them off soon enough, we'll avoid the worst burns. It's bad, though. They'll throw us into the arena no matter what condition we're in. I know we promised Haymitch we'd do exactly what they said, but I don't think he considered this angle. Where is Haymitch anyway? Isn't he supposed to protect us from this sort of thing, says Peeta. With all that alcohol in him, it's probably not advisable to have him around an open flame, I say. Alright, then the opening music begins. Massive doors slide open. Being from 12, Katniss and Peeta are naturally the last to come out onto the street. Right before they go out, Cinna lights them with the fake fire, and then lets out a sigh of relief that it worked. Cinna, what? Cinna, are you saying you weren't sure if it would work? Were you faking the confidence? I'd be pissed if I were your tributes right now. But I guess that doesn't matter, because it works and their outfits are a hit. Katniss and Peeta hold hands at Cinna's instructions. Then the crowd cheers for them. Probably first time in history everyone cheers for 12 during the tribute parade. They smile and wave and keep holding on to each other to keep balance. And Katniss feels a real sense of hope now because, surely someone would want to sponsor her now with her fiery debut. Again, pun intended. And she also catches a rose someone threw and blows a kiss, which makes the crowd go crazy. And people are chanting Katniss's name. Why is no one chanting Peeta's name? He's literally right there, also on fire. This has always bothered me. Like Katniss always gets called the girl on fire, but Peeta was also on fire. Why does everyone forget that? Anyway, they get to the city circle. Peeta asks Katniss to keep holding onto him because he's afraid of falling over. Irrational fear, I think. Katniss obliges, but it makes her a bit uncomfortable since Sin has kind of linked them together. And it's unfair to present them as a team when only one of them is allowed to live in the end. So the chariots pull up right to President Snow's mansion, where the bastard himself is on the balcony giving the official welcome. Also, during the speech, Katniss and Peeta are getting the most screen time, which has to drive old Corio crazy because, anything from District 12 triggers him. I will be calling President Snow Corio on the occasion during this reading because it's funny and I miss Ballad. And I know it would annoy Snow. Kind of like during the Battle of Hogwarts when Harry calls Voldemort Tom just to drive him crazy. Okay, so anyway, parade is over, tributes all go inside. The other tributes are glaring at Katniss and Peeta because, they literally outshine the rest of them. Katniss and Peeta finally let go of each other's hands. And I don't really have anything else to add to the end of this chapter, so I'll just read the last couple of paragraphs again. Thanks for keeping hold of me. I was getting a little shaky there, says Peeta. It didn't show, I tell him. I'm sure no one noticed. I'm sure they didn't notice anything but you. You should wear flames more often, he says. They suit you. Then he gives me a smile that seems so genuinely sweet with just the right touch of shyness that unexpected warmth rushes through me. A warning bell goes off in my head. Don't be so stupid. Peeta's planning how to kill you, I remind myself. He's luring you in to make you easy prey. The more likable he is, the more deadly he is. But two of us can play at this game. I stand on tiptoe and kiss his cheek, right on his bruise. So petty. And oh, how you misjudge him, Katniss. Anyway, time for a break. When we get back, we'll talk about Chapter 6. Hey guys, me again, back with another random recommendation. So this one is a book that I have not read, but my grandma really loves, so hi Grandma. This is a book by Kristen Hanna, an author that I really need to read, as I've said earlier in this episode. But this is one of her backlisted books, True Colors by Kristen Hanna, which I've said. So, also, again, another book that I have that has a really gorgeous cover. So I'll read the description for you guys on the back. The Grey sisters have always banded together against the distant chill of their father, Winona, the oldest, never felt at home on the seaside horse ranch that has been in her family for 3 generations. A small-town attorney, she sees herself as an overweight bookworm who doesn't have the qualities her father values, but she is determined to prove her worth to him. Aurora, the middle sister, is the family peacemaker. She brokers every dispute and tries to keep them all happy, even as she hides her own secret pain. Vivienne is the undisputed star of the family, a stunningly beautiful dreamer with her heart as big as the Pacific Ocean in front of her house. She is adored by all who know her. Everything comes easily for Vivienne, and love most of all. A terrible, shocking crime will shatter their family and tear their beloved town apart. Accused is Vivienne's new husband, an outsider. For the first time, the sisters will be pitted against each other. Loyalties will be tested and secrets revealed. With breathtaking pace and penetrating emotional insight, True Colors is an unforgettable novel that explores the dark side of the criminal justice system, the price of prejudice, the long road to redemption, and ultimately what it means to be a family. Ooh, that actually sounds really good. Because I'm so used to hearing about Kristen Hanna's historical fictions, but this sounds really good. And, in her author bio on the back, it says she's a former lawyer turned writer, so that makes sense that she would write a story like this about the justice system. So, yeah, sounds really good. Alyson's grandma approves. Anyway, so, with that being said, let's go back to the episode. And we're back. So, the chapter opens with us at the training center. Katniss tells us that the training center has a tower. Each district has their own floor. District 12 naturally has the 12th floor. What do you know? Go figure. I'm still not sure about the theory that the training center is the building where the Snow's apartment from Ballad was, but I'm trying to picture it right now, and it is weird to think about Katniss being in the same apartment that Snow used to live in. Anyway, so Katniss finds out that Effie will continue to be their escort up until they go into the arena, which she's glad about because as clueless and sometimes annoying Effie can be at times, she can always be relied upon to keep everyone on schedule. Also, Effie is now very invested in their progress since this is the first pair of tributes she's ever chaperoned who actually made a good impression at the opening ceremony. She's already started talking them up to potential sponsors, highlighting, of course, Katniss sacrificing herself for her sister and how, they both overcame the barbarism from living in District 12. Very much like how Coriolanus sells Lucy Gray to the Capitol audience by saying how above she is from the rest of 12. And again, like I said then, very dehumanizing language. Because the Capitol still has very fucked up views of the people from the districts, especially the poor ones like 12, 10, and 11. Effie says that, her way of selling Katniss and Peeta to the people is something like, if you put enough pressure on coal, it turns into pearl, which Katniss reminds us is very wrong, as most of us know pearls come from oysters. But Katniss doubts that the people Effie's talking to even care if, what she's saying is correct. Which I unfortunately 100% believe. Because a lot of times, people just like what sounds nice without even bothering if it's true, despite the fact that Google is free. Newsflash, Facebook and TikTok are not reliable news sources. This is a really tiny detail, but I think it's an interesting window into the mindset of people in the Capitol. They have really comfortable lives, their material needs are met, no reason to question the information they're told. Anyway, Effie's doing what she can, but she ultimately can't secure their sponsor deals. Only Haymitch can do that, but Effie does promise that she'll get Haymitch to the table at gunpoint if necessary, which it's just a hilarious image to think about, and I love it. I wonder if anyone's made fan art of it. Maybe. I need to find out. If you have any fan art of Effie holding Haymitch at gunpoint at the table, please Send it my way. At bookishbabbles_podcast on Instagram. Anyway, Katniss goes to her quarters, which are larger than her entire house. There are like 1,000 buttons for the shower alone. Closets help choose outfits to wear. Windows can also be used as a screen to zoom in and out of parts of the city. Can even order room service that gets to you in less than a minute. All she has to do is whisper into a mouthpiece. Then she's called to dinner to eat more food. Katniss is glad that her stylists are there to eat with them, since Effie and Haymitch are less likely to be at each other's throats, and it works. Katniss also wonders if Haymitch has his own prep team, because she's never seen him look so put together when he shows up to dinner. While they eat, Katniss tries wine for the first time, because why not? Might never get another chance. Though halfway through her glass of wine, her head starts to feel foggy, and she switches to water, which is very smart. And wonders how Haymitch can handle walking around like that full time. Then they're served a gorgeous looking cake, and they even light it up just to be fancy. Katniss turns to the girl who served it to ask, how it works, and suddenly says to her, "Hey, I know you." Katniss is very certain that this girl looks familiar, and at the same time starts to feel a sense of dread and anxiety. The girl shakes her head, denying Katniss's claim, but it's clear based on her terror that Katniss is telling the truth, and the four adults are immediately on edge. Effie kind of snaps a bit, telling Katniss that there's no way she could know the girl because she's an Avox. And now we get the concept of Avoxes explained to us, who are lacking in the movies. I mean, they're in the background, but you don't understand the significance of them unless you've read the books. And we do meet Pollux in the movie, but that isn't until the third one. So an Avox is someone who committed a crime, usually a traitor of some kind, who gets their tongue cut out by the Capitol so they can never speak again. After Haymitch explains that to her, Katniss then remembers where she's seen this girl from, and it is not a pleasant memory. Peeta then swoops in to save the day. He smoothly lies, claiming that the Avox girl looks like Deli Cartwright, a classmate back home, and that's why the Avox look so familiar to them. And Deli, the actual Deli, looks nothing like this Avox girl, but Katniss jumps in on the lie, realizing that Peeta's helping cover for her. And instantly everyone relaxes, they eat cake, they watch the replay of the tribute parade. Haymitch likes the fact that Cinna told them to hold hands and calls it the perfect touch of rebellion, which he's right about, because all the other tributes acted like their district partner wasn't standing right next to him, almost as if the games have already begun. So, once they're done watching the recaps, Haymitch sends Katniss and Peeta to bed, and so that the grown-ups can talk. Peeta wants an explanation for the whole thing at dinner, so they go to the roof where it'll be harder for them to be overheard since the wind is loud, and Katniss does want to talk to someone about the Avox girl. And as they make their way up to the roof, there's a really notable line on page 80. It says, "Besides, the idea of the girl with her maimed tongue frightens me. She has reminded me why I'm here, not to model flashy costumes and eat delicacies, but to die a bloody death while the crowds urge on my killer." So I do think that in this first part of the book, it's almost easy to get caught up in the glamour of the Capitol, especially in the movies. It looks like a place I'd like to visit with amazing food to eat, and that's half the reason I like to travel, to try new foods. Even Katniss, when she's in her room, gets briefly caught up in all the gadgets and all the buttons to press and the cool new food to eat. But the Avoxes being there, especially one Katniss knows, is really important because it's a reality check for us. They're a reminder that just under the surface of this very glamorous city are these really dark and horrible things, and that the government regularly commits atrocities against its citizens who aren't in the elite upper class. And in the movie, they did cast someone to play the Avox girl, but all her scenes were cut, so all you see of her is in the background. And I do understand that stuff, needs to be cut, and I know the filmmakers did their best, and we did still get a really good movie. But it's sad that we're not introduced to the concept of Avoxes in the first movie, because, like I said, they're a good reality check when we start to get caught up in the parade and all the cool outfits Katniss gets to wear. Anyway, so Katniss and Peeta get to the roof. They get an amazing view of the city. By the way, it's impossible for a tribute to jump off the roof since there is a force field that prevents them from doing so, because gosh darn it, they'll throw you into a death arena, but you gotta keep them happy and healthy till then. And there's also a garden on the roof. Was it the Grandmam's garden? Who knows? So then Katniss tells Peeta the story of how she knows the Avox girl. One day she and Gale went out in the woods hunting, hidden under a shelf of rock, and suddenly the bird stopped singing. And by the way, I checked Hunger Games wiki. The Avox girl, her name is Lavinia, and we don't actually learn her name until Mockingjay, but that's what I'm gonna call her from now on, since it's easier than always just saying Avox girl. Anyway, so the bird stopped singing. Lavinia and a boy whose name we never learn. They come out of nowhere, like running like their lives depend on it. Then a hovercraft appears, not even making a sound. A net drops down on Lavinia, scooping her up, and a spear attached to a cable goes right through the boy's body and drags him up, and we're pretty sure he was killed instantly. And then just like that, hovercraft gone as if nothing happened. She doesn't tell Peeta this part aloud, but she knows that Lavinia did see her and called out for help, but of course, she and Gale did nothing. And Peeta sees that she's shivering, gives her his jacket. They both speculate that the pair were from the capital, and Katniss can't understand why they would run. There's nothing beyond 12 other than the ruins of District 13. Peeta slips by saying he would leave, but then quickly covers himself by saying, I'd go home if they let me. So, if you just heard the conversation out of context, it just sounds like he's a scared tribute rather than a traitor. You see, he's being a smart Sejanus. Anyway, it's chilly. They head back to their rooms. Peeta asks about Gale, and Katniss can't understand Peeta's expression when she tells him that they're not related. And Peeta also mentions that his father likes her and Prim when Katniss tells him Mr. Millard gave her cookies. Katniss notes he looks surprised by this, maybe meaning he didn't send his dad to see her after the reaping. But she can't be sure because Peeta's proven to be a good liar. Peeta says his father knew Mrs. Everdeen when they were kids, and later we learn how significant this is. Katniss feels a little bad since her mom almost never mentioned Mr. Millard. They say goodnight. Katniss gives him his jacket back. Lavinia's in Katniss's room cleaning up, and just like last time, I'll just read the last couple of paragraphs in the chapter. Clearly, I got a theme going on this episode. So, in this passage, Katniss is talking about Lavinia. I'd set out to tell her I was sorry about dinner, but I know that my apology runs much deeper, that I'm ashamed I never tried to help her in the woods, that I let the capital kill the boy and mutilate her without lifting a finger, just like I was watching the games. I kick off my shoes and climb under the covers in my clothes. The shivering hasn't stopped. Perhaps the girl doesn't even remember me, but I know she does. You don't forget the face of the person who was your last hope. I pull the covers up over my head as if this will protect me from the red-headed girl who can't speak. But I can feel her eyes staring at me, piercing through the walls and doors and bedding. I wonder if she'll enjoy watching me die. Dang, that's dark. Also, what are the odds that just Katniss happens to be assigned the same Avox who was the girl who she saw get taken all those years ago? Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, some really weird odds are happening right now. So, on that heavy note, we've come to the end of the episode. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Next week, we'll be talking about chapters 7 to 9, and we'll be wrapping up part 1 already. Like, it feels weird that we're already at the end of part 1, because, in Ballad, it felt like it took so long to get to the end of the parts, but then again, Ballad's a much longer book than The Hunger Games. Like, it's only like 300, 70-something pages, I think. Whereas, Ballad was like 500 pages. So, makes sense. Don't forget to follow on Instagram, bookishbabbles_podcast. Follow, subscribe, so you know to get notified for episodes. And also, if you have any friends who you know love the Hunger Games and are craving more content, please tell them. I hope you guys have a great day / night whenever you're listening to this, and I will talk to you next time. Bye!